everybody. Welcome from my slightly messy kitchen. I try, but it's so hard to keep up with this kitchen, this family that's at home constantly, and all of it. But I'm trying, as I know you all probably are as well. I just wanted to make sure that I checked in with all of you to showcase how you make one of my absolute favorite dishes. And the key is I want to show you how amazingly simple it is. Hi, Fran. Thanks for joining in. Good morning. So let's go ahead and show you exactly what we're doing. And I am going to say for all of you that are going to be tuning in, that are watching, I'm sure we're going to get more soon, I'm going to get into the cooking and then post your questions at the end so I can answer all of them. This is the recipe, Baingan Bhartha. It is in Indian for Everyone, which is my third cookbook. On page 106, here's the funny thing, is people don't realize Baingan is just the word for eggplant. Bhartha refers to anything that is ground down, broken up, mashed is probably the best word for it. So this recipe walks you through everything that I'm going to showcase in my kitchen today. Before, though, we get to the actual cooking, I'm going to show you something else kind of cool. I had black chickpeas soaking. They were meant to be made into hummus, but they soaked an extra day. I refreshed the water. I got rid of the old water, put more water in. I just didn't have time to actually make the hummus yesterday as my daughter wanted. I've been doing a lot of hummus out of black chickpeas versus the white chickpeas. And look at that. Do you see those little tails coming out? I was so pleasantly surprised to see that they're sprouting. See that one? That one's a really good example of it. So it's so easy to sprout your legumes. Just literally have them sitting on your counter. It is better, though, if you have them with no water, because once you drain them overnight, you let them sit and they'll sprout. These just happen to start sprouting in the water, which I think might be a little bit better for the black chickpeas, because I've had them just sitting without any water and they've gotten kind of dried out. So maybe this was a better way to go. It's something that I learned as well. All right, so here we go. We're going to do the bhartha. The bhartha has been roasted. So the eggplant was first roasted yesterday in the oven, 500 degrees. That is a broil for about 30 to 40 minutes, and no oil required. It just goes on a baking tray and it goes right into the oven and it will roast. You do want to put a few slits into it. Medium to large eggplant is usually best for something like that. And then what I do is I pull it out, and when it's cooled down enough to handle, I make a long slit from the top to the bottom, and I scoop, 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 and scrape all of that beautiful meat out. Now, the other way to do it is you could just pull the skin off, throw the skin away, and then chop, 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 just like you would with a roasted red pepper. But I've been taught by my mother and my grandmother to just take a spoon. A grapefruit spoon is perfect, and then you can easily go ahead and scrape it all out. Now, what I'm going to do today is use my all-clad. I love this all-clad pan because it's got the higher sides, and I do want to eventually get in there with an immersion blender to kind of mash it down even more. You don't have to. It's just what I like to do. And I've got it on like a medium high at the moment. Now, there's no potatoes in this recipe. Egg potatoes is a separate dish. This is Baingan Bhartha, and there is no, Baingan Bhartha is just roasted eggplant, mix in spices, onion, ginger, garlic. I have been doing a little bit of research, and I've found some recipes on the internet. I won't state which sources, but it was interesting to me that they talk about using, making this recipe without any ginger. I have never seen it made without ginger. Ginger is such a critical part of it to make a Punjabi style true Baingan Bhartha. You could also use different kinds of spices, and we can talk about that at a later time, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. But I've got either ghee or grapeseed oil going in. Remember, you want a high smoke point oil going right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and put in, this is not in my recipe in the book, but that's okay, asafoetida. We like a little bit of hing. Hing helps improve digestion, but it also is very good for you in terms of antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. So if you have a chance, get it. If you don't worry about it. It's not something you absolutely have to have in there. All right, so we've got it nice and warm. I can feel that heat kind of coming off. And look at this, I've got my spatula set up. I've got 3 different sizes that I use for different things. You'll see what I'm gonna do. Large, medium, and small. What I like about this one is it's longer handled, so I can really get into all my jars. And I will show you why that is so critical. All right, let's go over here and grab our cumin seed. And here's the thing. Here's how you can swap spices if you want. You could use mustard seed instead of cumin seed. It would not be a Punjabi style recipe then, and that's okay. You can make it a little bit of a variation on that. I'm going to go ahead and put my turmeric powder in. I like adding my turmeric at this stage. Some people will put it in a little bit later. Nah, I like it in here. I think it cooks. It needs a little bit of cooking for me in terms of my taste. It's a heartier spice, and so it has a more sort of earthy taste component. I like it just kind of cooking down. Most powders I do not recommend putting right in your oil because they could burn, so just be careful of that. Let's go ahead and put our onion. This is a typical sabzi procedure. Do I want all of it? Why not? I've had this in the fridge for a couple days, so why not just use it all up? Let's go ahead and throw it all in, and we're gonna go ahead and cook the onion. Now, remember that onion has some moisture to it, so you want it to kind of really cook down, and you want that moisture to evaporate just that tiny bit so that you can go ahead and put your garlic and your ginger in just a bit. They're sweating, right? So onions, because of their moisture content, they're going to sweat a little bit. Let them sweat it out. No worries at all on that. And we're going to let it just kind of go. And while we're doing that, let me show you the eggplant. It is sitting in this jar, and I love reusing my glass jars, taking the labels off. My whole family laughs at me, but you know what? It's a great way to recycle. And see that liquid? That is the juice from the eggplant. So as my kids call it, the guts. It looks like brains, apparently, according to them. I said, no worries, you're gonna have brains for dinner. It'll taste delicious. It's all about how you spice it, folks. It's all about those amazing, amazing spices. All right, so we've got the onion, the piaz. It is sweating it out on medium-high heat. Maybe I'll zap it up just a touch, That's the beauty of once you kind of make this stuff intuitive, really learning how to gauge the heat and pulling it up, pulling it down, whatever you need to do. All right, now let's go ahead and put our garlic. No particular order on this, just as you are throwing it in, just no general procedure. That's the ginger. I grated this. You could have ground it down in a food processor. I have a little microplane grater that I like to use for all of this stuff. And look at that. So far, just cumin seed, a little bit of turmeric. We've got our onion sweating. It's sweated out. We've got our ginger, our garlic in there. And now we're going to go ahead and go over here. I like to get my chilies in. The chilies I used were and are Thai chilies. No need to pull out the seeds or the membrane. That is not something that we worry about with Indian cuisine. Now here's the thing. If you don't want all that heat, look how much heat I'm adding. These were particularly spicy chilies. Then put your chilies in whole. And then the less you chop, the less spicy, the less heat you release. Very important little rule on chilies, a little bit counterintuitive, but when you think about it, it makes sense. So even if you don't want a ton of chilies, but you also don't want to work on them with your hands, you don't have kitchen gloves, you don't want to pull out all the seeds in the membrane, it's okay. Put it in whole, slice it down maybe just in half. Don't chop them too much. All right, so that's a different way to do it. All right, so let's go ahead and put our tomato in. Just one tomato that I've got. Again, it could be any tomato. I've been actually doing some fun stuff with adding the tomato in at the end after I'm done with my immersion blender and adding in little cherry tomatoes, very sweet cherry tomatoes. It gives it a different look and it just looks so elevated and gourmet and beautiful to do it that way as well. All right, so we've got that in there. Now what we want to do is go ahead and add in our baingan, our eggplant. Now, yes, the Thai chilies are spicier than the serranos, but here's the thing on that. That the reason why we pick different kinds of chilies is because of the flavor profile. If you do compare the taste and the flavor of the serrano versus the Thai chili versus a really tiny Burmese chili, as my mom grows in Pennsylvania, it's a different flavor. Thank you, Fran. It is just a different, beautiful flavor. And look at this. I got a little bit of the skin in there. You could have just cooked it down, no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and just take that out. And we're going to keep that going. Page 106 of Indian for Everyone if you want to follow along, or if you want to just kind of watch for technique, folks. And then you can go back and look at the measurements, the exact measurements. Here's the thing. Some of these recipes that are reprinted by folks that are not Indian, here's where they get it wrong. They don't cook this down enough. And it's really key to take your sabzi and really cook it well, because that is how you bring all of your ingredients together. So if someone says, wow, your dish is so incredibly spicy, it's like slapping me in the face, well, it could be just that it didn't cook down enough, that those chili peppers that are in there, they didn't have a chance to really blend in with your main ingredients and really come together. And that's really, to me, a successfully spiced dish. It's really about how it all kind of blends together versus you really tasting any one particular spice, it really slapping you in the face. You don't want that necessarily. You really, truly want an overall balanced dish and taste profile. So again, we could have cooked this instead of with the cumin seed. If you want to do something that is not so much Punjabi, use your mustard seed. Now, here's something interesting too that as we watch tell you about, there are recipes and cookbooks out there that are touting dishes, like for example, a Punjabi chana recipe with mustard seed. We don't, even though we grow mustard in Punjab, which is the most beautiful crop in the world, and my family has owned land in Punjab, for centuries. So I've been in those fields, and we grow a lot of mustard greens. We eat a lot of mustard greens. We don't mix mustard seed, though, with our cuisine as much, and I'll do a little more vetting, hopefully with my family in India, to find out exactly why. I never thought about it that much, but it's really not a North Indian sort of spice profile. So when you see a dish, for example, in one cookbook that I've been looking at, that they showcased a Punjabi chola or chana. Chana and chola are the same thing. Different words for the same thing. It's really not an authentically Punjabi dish. Like, don't call it Punjabi then. I think that's really hyper misleading. I really like to remain true to the regions of India and the way of cooking, because otherwise it becomes a mishmash, especially if you're newer to the cuisine. I just want you to understand how those spices kind of come together and why we're using specific spices and taste profiles versus not really telling you why and just throwing it all in for you and then calling it the wrong thing. So I just like to be really, maybe it's a journalist in me, I just think that you'd want to know versus me giving you something that's not really truly how we cook. Now, you can make it whatever you want on your end. That's not a problem. But my role and job, I believe, is to give you the correct vetted information. I could be wrong. I'm not perfect. But at least I've done the research. I've asked the important, relevant questions. That is about building all that trust between my fans, my readers, and me, right? So that's my training as a reporter, as a journalist. It's really important to me. And I don't like these dishes that just throw that word Punjabi on there because we're very particular about our cuisine. It's a very specific cuisine, just like Gujarati cuisine is, just like, cuisine from the Malabar coast is. It is important to get it right, folks. There is value in respecting where these recipes are coming from. Okay, so you see how I did that? We were chit-chatting, and it's just cooking down. I see it kind of going a little crazy on the edges, so I want to pull my heat down just a tad, just a hair. And now I want to go ahead and put my garam masala in. Yep, I'm not measuring it. It's about a tablespoon, I'd say, maybe a little less than that, not too much less. Got my garam masala in, and here's the thing. I was thinking about this today. It was only once I really started cooking in the United States, and I was only 3 when I left India, but we went back just about every year. We have 2 family homes there. We have our own home there. So a lot of connections to India. Never in India was there such an emphasis on spice blends. They really do cook more with just those basic spices, red chili powder or cayenne going in, not Tex-Mex, chili meaning cayenne powder. And now I think I'm going to put a little bit of my salt in. Just going to salt it. There you go. That should be right. That's how I do it when I cook for myself. Again, that recipe will tell you how much. But you kind of get the idea. A little bit of coriander powder, okay? But my mom never cooked with all of these exotic blends. That's just become a trend in the last 20, 25 years. And now it's become very trendy in India too, which is fine. There's a reason for it. But the point is you can make all this food without resorting to all those blends. Just use those whole spices. If you didn't have the garam masala, well, then you would have put in a cinnamon stick in the beginning, some cloves. And then before we mash it down, you would taken it out so that it doesn't get too ground down, right? But the cumin seed, obviously, you're not going to do that with. You eat all of that. Now, I'm going to let this cook just a bit. And what I want to do is I want to showcase a really neat spice that we've talked about before, coriander. And as Fran, you've mentioned you love coriander. Coriander is a seed. This is coriander seed, right? We've talked about this before. It grows up to be cilantro, the herb. Same thing. Now we call it coriander when it's a seed. What I've done is I've just dry roasted. I've just take a little bit. I don't need too much. I'm not going to do it because I already have some done. Dry pan. Just dry roast it for just a couple seconds. Shake, shake, shake. All right, dry roast it for maybe like a minute at the most. This amount will go even faster than that. And then in a mortar and pestle, just grind it down until it becomes this. Roasted coriander in here. Now, the reason I'm adding this is some recipes call for lemon juice. That is what coriander does. It adds that lemony, beautiful, citrusy taste profile into your cooking. And so it's not traditional in the recipe. In fact, in my book, it's not in there, but I like doing that now. I just like that added lemony taste. Also, keep in mind, coriander is very good for diabetes and lowering blood sugar. So it's just a nice little spice to get in here. The ground spice, I just want to say, look how gorgeous that is when you do it at home. Yeah. And the thing is, I learned to really love this when I was in the Malabar Coast shooting some cooking videos with chefs, and they really use this ground coriander spice quite a bit, especially with squash. Like a butternut squash with that. It's just a beautiful combination. I really like that. And look at this, it's just about done. Now, what I am going to do, you could leave it just like this, and you can serve it just like that. But I think what I would like to do is grind it down even more. So I'm gonna turn the heat off for now. And I'm gonna go over here and get my immersion blender, which is stuck in my drawer here. I told you folks, it is crazy in this house right now. I'm sure everyone else is feeling the same nuttiness. It's exhausting, isn't it? All right, so let's get in here. We're gonna make sure that those holes are covered before we go. That's why I like the size of this pan. Pull it over a little bit. I'm not gonna do all of it because I like a little bit of texture in there. But I do want a nice blend. Now, love the immersion blender that flips off here with the button, the push of a button. Hold on. There we go. See, it just detaches. That's gonna go right in my my dishwasher rather, not in my washing machine, that would be horrendous. I'm gonna turn the heat back on, and then I want this cooking a little bit more because I want that oil to kind of pull away like cilantro, right? That's gonna be my finisher. And look at this, here's a little piece of chilka or skin. Who cares? Just pull it out, that's fine. Let's put in our cilantro. And look how gorgeous that does look. Wow. Let's taste it. It's very important to taste your food. And now you see how it's kind of really coming together. That's the look that you want. It is not the prettiest dish to photograph, I'm gonna be honest, but it's a fun dish to eat. Very, very tasty. Excuse me. Those chilies are awesome. Now, what I am going to do is go ahead and put in another added layer of flavor. In Punjab, we are all about sarson. Sarson is mustard. Sarson ka saag, right? Saag made out of mustard leaves. We grow them, mustard greens. From the mustard seed comes mustard oil. Now, is amazing for it to massage on your scalp. It smells horrendous, but it's a really nice finisher. I don't need too much. I just need a little dash. And you don't even need it, honestly, if you don't want. It's just my added touch. Too much, and it'll smell too much like that. It's not so good. But just that added little bit gives this a little bit of shine. It just makes it just a little more elevated. So you see how with just these little touches, you can take your cuisine, make it gourmet. I always say my hashtag on Instagram, one of them is gourmet without the snob. I'm gonna show you how to do it. And then people will be like, hey, you need to write an Indian cookbook. Your cooking is so good. Oh, that is beautiful. Now, if you don't have the mustard oil, no worries. If you have a chance to go to the Indian grocery store though, pick up a bottle. If you can, it's a nice touch. Again, not something you absolutely have to have in there. Now, bye Fran. Thanks for watching. So anybody have any questions that I can answer at this point? This is pretty much done. And look, it's a sabzi that didn't really need to be put under the lid, but what I'm going to do to let it set is I'm going to turn my heat off, it's off, and then I'm going to have my lid handy and let it just sit for a couple minutes. And that, folks, is Baingan Bhartha. Now, how would I eat it? It's a big mash, right? So the question is, how do you eat it? We typically eat it with a roti or naan, if you prefer. And we just take a little piece and we get a little bit and we eat it and have a little onion salad on the side, and it's delicious. But other ways that you can eat it, think of it as an Indian version of baba ganoush, right? So it's like a dip. You could eat it with pita chips, with naan chips. I like to slather mine on a rice cracker during the day if I'm rushing around and I want something quick to eat, a snack. I'll put a bunch on a rice cracker and then put some chopped onion and maybe even more chopped chilies on top. So lots of different ways to do it. Say that you don't even want the carbs and you just want to have some fresh veggies. Use it as a dip with some sliced carrots, maybe some lettuce rolled up, and you can eat it in that. So lots of different ways, but the traditional way is the way we're going to have it for dinner tonight. It's going to be on the side with some roti and then a dal in a little katori by the side. But it's a great way to get your eggplant on, and it's so super simple. So I hope that you enjoyed that little instruction and that you're going to check it out on your end as well. If for some reason you don't like eggplant, or if you don't have eggplant, you can do the same type of thing by, say, you bake a potato, scrape out the inside, do the same thing. If you've got a butternut squash on hand, roast it and scrape out the inside. Same idea, right? So bhartha just means mashed, and it could be anything. Just mash it on up and make it up with your spices and your delicious, amazing cumin seed, turmeric, your coriander seed if you've got that on hand as well. All right, folks, I gotta run, but I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll share your love of Indian as apple pie, the page. I'm gonna pick 5 winners of the Indian Slow Cooker, my first cookbook. I will pick those winners later today, most likely. And the way it works is, if you know somebody that could benefit from healthy Indian cooking and instruction and just lots of fun stuff, tag them. That's all you gotta do. And the more people you tag, the more times you get to enter the contest. Stuff the ballot box. It's the one time that it's perfectly legal to do that. All right, so thanks so much. You have great days. Send me your questions, send me your inquiries. Let me know what you want to cook in the Instant Pot, because we're going to be doing another class on Sunday. I'm working on getting better audio for all of you, but we'll have that all ready for you soon. Take care. See you later. Talk to you soon. Bye.